Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste, everybody. We left off last night talking about the 5 koshas, the Annamaya kosha, the world of matter, the Pranamaya kosha, the world of breath, or the world of air, or prana, Manamaya kosha, the consistency of thought, Vijnanamaya kosha, the consistency of light, and Anandamaya kosha, Satchidananda. And as we were chanting today, we were moving our awareness from our physical bodies, the Annamaya kosha, to the Pranamaya kosha, to the Manamaya kosha, to the Vijnanamaya kosha, to the Anandamaya kosha, and back. We were taking this journey every breath throughout the recitation of the text. And now our chanting has come closer. That's nice. Our chanting has a much deeper meaning now, because we're using that chanting and using that pranayama to make this journey more efficient. We're forgetting about our bodies, a physical body, and we're paying attention to the breath. We're forgetting about the breath and paying attention to the meaning of the text. We're forgetting the meaning of the text and merging with the light. We're taking the light and putting it into the ultimate bliss, and we're becoming one with the goddess, and this is our path. This is the way by means of which we make the journey every time we move into meditation. Now, there are 8 kinds of behavior for spiritual seekers. And acharan in Sanskrit means behavior. Behavior. So Vaishnavacharan is first, Vaidikacharan, Sivacharan, Vamacharan, Dakshinacharan, Siddhantachara, Yogacharan, and Kulacharan. These are the 8 kinds of behaviors which spiritual seekers perform. Let's look at them. Vaishnavacharan means the behavior of inspiration. You get an inspiration. You see an example which you want to inculcate into your own demeanor. You see a bhavana that you want to express in your own way. You see an activity, the way she cooks, the way she sings, the way whatever you saw within her that you wanted to employ within your own self, and you got an inspiration. That's called Vaishnavachara. You're acting in accordance with your inspiration. And Vaidikachara means the behavior of knowledge. So now you got inspired, you saw an example you liked, study it. What did she do? What spice did she put in the vegetable? How did she... Is that just tonight's recipe, or was that every dinner? So we're going to learn about what turns us on. Whatever inspired us in the first place is going to draw us towards it, and it's magnetically, there's this attraction that says, hey, I got to learn about this inspiration. And then comes Seva Acharan. And Shiva Achara means the behavior of practice. Well, if it worked for her, I'll try it myself. How does she sit? How does she breathe? How does she express the essence of the verses? How does she behave in practice? And Bhamacharan means actually the beloved behavior. A lot of people call it the left-handed behavior, but it's not. Vamadeva is not the left-handed God. He's the beloved God. And Bhama is how do we adapt that practice into our life? How do we use that practice? How do we use that knowledge that we've been practicing, that we got inspired from in the first place? That's Brahmacharan. And after Brahmacharan comes Dakshinacharan. And it means the preferred behavior. reducing our necessity to act in the world. By means of the brahmacharya, by employing the beloved behavior in our lives that we've been practicing, we did it correctly. We don't have to go back and fix it again. We don't have to keep doing the same things over and over and over again. And the Dakshinacharya says, well, it's done. I don't have to repeat that same action. Now I'm going to stay and do the things that are important to me. Rather than repeating the same action over and over again, I'm going to reduce my necessity to act in the world and spend more time in the temple. And then, how do you do that? That's called Siddhantacharya. The behavior according to the scriptures, according to Siddhanta, they express, what do you got to do? How do you stay in the temple? What would you do if you had, we were just talking about retirement at the 19th hole, or hitting that poor little ball around the golf course. Either way, there are other things we could do in our retirement. And Siddhantacharya says, what do you want to do? What would you do if you had all the time in the world to spend the whole day in the temple? Well, there are 7 parts of Siddhantacharya. First is puja. We discussed puja as we talked about the cosmic altar, and we're going to discuss it more in depth as we study the Devi Gita. And of course, the cosmic puja is the padoti, the system of worship. And remember, pu means punya, ja means jata. Jata gives birth to punya, which is the highest merit, is the privilege to sit in the presence of God, which is why we do the worship, to get the punya, to get the privilege, so then we get to stay in a divine environment with divine beings, thinking divine thoughts. Second one is pat. And we recited some scriptures today. Today we had a pretty good day. We did the full Chandi, and we did the Pancharatna Gita, and then we did the Devi Gita afterward.
Guru Gita.
Guru Gita. Yeah. And tomorrow we'll do the Devi Gita. That'll go for 9.5 hours, or instead of 8.5. So we started growing our asan, and we did it organically. We did step by step with a method. And we started out with, I think our first day was 6 hours, and then the second day was 7 hours, and the third day was 8 hours, and today we did 8.5 hours, and tomorrow we'll do 9 hours, and then 10 hours, and then we'll start growing it for real. Homa. Homa is the sacred fire ceremony, and there are many forms of Homa. There's Agnihotra, which is a Sangshipta, very abbreviated Homa that we do in the Agnya Chakra, enkindling the flame. We do more Yajna, and Yajna comes from the root, the same root as Yoga. Yuj means to unite. Yajna and yoga come from the same root. It's union. And the union between the fire in the Agnya Chakra and the fire in the Havan Kund is the yajna. That's where the yoga takes place. So the purpose of the yajna is to see outside how bright is my inner light. And so that's another form. Homa is a subset of yajna. A smaller yajna is a homa. So actually, if it goes for, it isn't set in stone, but if it goes for a half hour, 45 minutes, you could call it Agnihotra. If it goes for an hour or 2, you could call it a homa. If it goes for 3 or 4, you could call it a yajna. And anything more than that gets to be fun. Sangeet, Mama is the master of singing. And she sings, and that's another way to unite with God. If you're going to sit in the temple and you have idle time, don't gossip with the Swami, sing a song. Nrit, you tell a story in dance. Like the girls did the other night. They told us the story and they made all the gestures and they told us exactly what they acted out the parts of everything, all the praises that they were singing. Pravachan. That's what we're doing right now. We're explaining what we do and why we do it and what we hope to get for doing it and what's the purpose and how does it work. Pravachan. And Arpanam. At the end of whatever we're doing, we're going to eat. Or we're going to offer something to everybody. And so that offering is the Arpanam. And these are the 7 steps or the 7 principles of Siddhantachara. That's what you do when you go to temple. Puja, Pat, Homa, Sangeet, Nrit, Pravachan, and Arpanam. These 7 things are things that you can do in the temple to bring you into yoga, into union, into harmony with God. And puja means worship. Oh, that was in Annapurna temple in Benares. Pat means recitation of the scriptures. That was a cold day. She usually keeps me in hot water, but this time she took an exception and put me in cold water. And we did the whole Changi pot underneath the ice water where it was melting. Homa, the sacred fire ceremonies. Sangeet, the singing about God. Nrit, dancing for God. That was a program we did in Benares on the at the Ghat at Dashashwani. Pravachan means explaining what we're doing and why we're doing it. And Arpan means the offering of service. And there's Srima's cookbook, the great cook. And from doing behavior in accordance with the scriptures, we come to yogacara, which means the behavior of union. Yoga means one. Dvitiyam namamapra. There's no second. We come into oneness, attunement. We become attuned to each one. And from moving from yogacharan, we come to kulacharan, which means the behavior of excellence. Whether you're sitting in one-pointed samadhi or interacting with the world, you do everything with the same bhavana. You keep that bhavana all the time, whether you're sitting in oneness, in union, or you're doing Siddhantachara, or whether you're chopping wood and carrying water, whatever you're doing, to keep the same bhav. That's the kulachara, the behavior of excellence. So these are the 8 forms of behavior for all spiritual seekers, no matter where we are in our path. We are using all 8 forms all the time. We get an inspiration, we cultivate the knowledge, we put it into practice, we refine the practice until we become good at it. We do it so nicely we don't have to do it anymore, and we reduce our necessity to act in the world. And then comes behavior according to the scriptures. Puja, Pat, Homa, Sangeet, Nrit, Pravachan, Arpanam. And then Yogacara, the behavior of union, the behavior of oneness. And then kulachar means the behavior of excellence. Whether you're sitting in one-pointed samadhi or you're acting and reacting in the world, you're in the same bhavana. That's the behavior of excellence. And these are the steps, and this is the goal. To always maintain that attitude of excellence. You're always in union, no matter what we're doing. Now, the study of Sanskrit has 6 subjects. Vyakaran means grammar. Ucharan means pronunciation. Itihas and Sahitya, it means history and literature, and it's one subject because you only study the history by reading the literature. So it's one subject. And Darshan Shastra is philosophy. Jyotish, we just talked about that, is astrology. And Padoti is the synthesis. How do you synthesize it? It's Tantra. How do you weave it all together into one system of worship that you can use? How to make it practical, useful. Now, there are 7 meters of classical Sanskrit: Gayatri, Ushtak, Anushtak, Prihati, Punkti, Trishtak, and Jagati. And Gayatri, of course, has 24 syllables to the verse. Ushnik has 28. Anushtak, which is the most of what we call modern Sanskrit, actually is called classical Sanskrit, but it's 32 syllables to the verse. And you know, each one of these chandas is a formula for pranayama, so that we are inhaling a mantra, we are reciting a mantra inside, and we are exhaling a mantra, as we did the Chandipat with 4 verses to the breath. We did the Bhagavad Gita 3 verses to the breath, and then there's Brihati, Punkti, Trishtup, and Jagati. These are different rhythms and different meters by which we inhale and exhale the presence of God. So you're not only reading the story, you're not only studying the literature and the history and the philosophy, but you're inhaling the story. And you're exhaling the story so that it becomes your story. And actually, each one of these shastras, they are scriptures because they are telling our story. How did I become Ram? How did I go to Ayodhya? Remember, Yud means war, and Ayud means no war, and Ayodhya is the place of perfect peace. How did I go to the place of perfect peace? Now, you can read all about my story in the Ramayana. How did I cut down too much and too little and put them into balance and destroy self-conceit and self-deprecation? You can read my story, our story in the Chandi. How did I aspire to become the perfect devotee who was totally surrendered to all the actions of God? You can read our story and how we prevailed in the battle in the Bhagavad Gita. So all of these classical Sanskrit meters are different ways of regulating your breath, as well as telling the story of how you became the person you most highly respect. There's the path of sound that we're using. We're using these mantras are actually sounds. And from Shabda Brahman is the sound of God, and it's the infinite sound of the universe. And the Shabda Brahman manifests as a bindu, which is the first point of sound made manifest. Bindu becomes a nad, which is the subtle vibration of sound. And the nad, that subtle vibration, is approximated, expressed by a bija. And bija is the closest audible expression of what the subtle vibration is saying. So we said that the closest audible expression, the bija of wisdom, is aim. The bija of maya is green. The bija of transformation is clean. The closest audible expression which the rishis understood intuitively, they expressed it. How do you express what is the sound of the universe? It's called a bija. And we take the bijas and we follow them into the nad. And we move into the subtle body of sound. Well, just try something now. Just a little exercise. Let's say, oh. you hear that? Did you hear that in your ears? I know, but I heard it anyway. Did you hear that? You hear that in your ears? Now, everybody listen to it one more time inside. I'm sure you all heard that too. And that's the nod. The subtle body of sound that you hear only on the inside. You heard it in the gross body outside as the bija. Now you hear it as the nod. Follow the nod into the bindu, where one point of sound, all sounds emanate from the bindu. And from the bindu, when we enter into the bindu, we hear the sound that only God hears. So Shabda is an audible sound, and mantra is a sound which takes away the mind. Mantrayate. It takes away the mind. That's by definition, all mantras blow your mind. Vedic Sabda are the sounds which describe the wisdom of union. And Bhautika Shabda are the sounds which describe the world outside. Well, now we've got a very clear indication of how we're going to proceed to go back to God, using sound. Controlling all the worldly descriptions, dissolve all the sounds, all the Bhautika Sabda into Vedic Sabda, and only think about the wisdom of union. And letting go of all thoughts, contemplate the audible expression of the subtle vibration, which is, you take the beach, the audible expression is the beach, and you move into the nod. And becoming more and more subtle, enter into the bindu, from where the first point of sound is made manifest, and from the bindu you merge into the sound of God, which is Shabda Brahman, the infinite sound of the universe. So we go from Bhautika Sabda, words of the world, to Vedic Sabda, words about wisdom, how to go inside. And we take the Vedic Sabda and as mantra and lose all the thoughts of the mind. And we dissolve the mantra into the bijas. And the closest audible expression of what is the subtle essence, that vibration of the nod. We move from the nod to Shakti into the bindu, and from the bindu to Shabda Brahman, and we become one with the sound of God. And this is the path of sound. From Shabda Brahman came the bindu, and from the bindu came the nod, and from the nod came the bija, and from the bija came the mantra, and from the mantra came Shabda, which became Vedic Shabda, words of wisdom. How do you unite? And Bhautik Shabda, how do you deal with this world? How do you act and react and interact with this world? Bhautika Shabda. Controlling Bhautika Shabda, listen to the Vedic Sabda. Thinking of Vedic Sabda, go into the mantra. Going through the mantra, you come to the beach. And from the beach, you go to the nod to the bindu. And from the bindu, you move into Shabda. And that's what we're doing all through the day as we're inhaling and exhaling these mantras. We've controlled all the Bhautika Shabda. We're only think about the story of how did I give all those ripus, how did I give all those limitations to the gods. That was the whole story we wrote. We recited for 8.5 hours today. Every mantra. was a word of wisdom describing how I achieved greater and greater unity. Each of us, in our own ways. Oh, let's stop here. Let's see if there are any questions about sabda, about koshas, about anything we've covered.
Well,
Please.
just recently, would this be an appropriate practice to do during our day in the world when we're...
This is one of the most wonderful meditations to do all of these lists that we're going through. Right now, each one of them in its own right is a complete meditation. You go from the Annamaya Kosh to the Pranamaya Kosh. From the Pranamaya Kosh to the Manomaya Kosh. From the Manomaya Kosh to the Jnanamaya Kosh. From the Jnanamaya Kosh to the Anandamaya Kosh. You go from the Anandamaya Kosh to the Jnanamaya Kosh to the Manomaya Kosh to the Pranamaya Kosh. And you look at the Annamaya Kosh with the insight of what's inside. What is that bhavana of union? What is that attitude of complete union? The same thing with my acharan. What kind of behavior do I perform in this world? I start with an inspiration. I study that inspiration. I go from Vaishnavachara to Vaidikachara. I start to practice. I go to Shiva Achara to Brahmachara. And I use that in my life so I'm efficient and I do my work appropriately. And then I become engrossed in Dakshinachara so I don't have to do it again and again and again and again. And then I have so much free time. What am I going to do? Siddhantachara. I'm going to do the 7 steps of Siddhantachara. I'm going to act in accordance with the scriptures. I'm going to do puja, pat, homa, sangeet, narit, dancing, pravachan, and arpan. These 7 kinds of behavior are the 7 kinds of Siddhantachara. And then from Siddhantachara, I move into Yogachara. And when I come out of that samadhi, I move into Kulachara. So I maintain the same bhavana all through the day. Whether I'm chanting, whether I'm working, whether I'm typing, whether I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I am still here. I'm the same. I keep that bhavana with me. And now I'm going to use sound to do the same thing. I'm going to start with Shabda Brahman. I'm going to the Bindu. I go from the Bindu to the Nad, from Nad to the Bija, from the Bija to the mantra, from the mantra to the Vedic Sabda, and then to the Bhautika Sabda. And I stop thinking about describing the world outside. And I start thinking about describing the path to go inside. And I control all the gossip. I'm sorry, I'm a gossip. But I control all the gossip and all the chatter, and I start thinking about words of wisdom. And I use the words of wisdom to go into the mantra. And from the mantra, I go to the bija, and from the bija, I go to the nada, and from the nada, I go to the bindu, and from the bindu, I go to Shabda Brahman, I become one with God. Here we've just gone through 3 major techniques very, very quickly. You can use any of them or all of them all the time. You can define it in any terminology you choose.
I'm inspired to try this while I'm at work.
A wonderful thing to do, but do your work efficiently.
Yeah.
Don't space out.
That's right.
Do not go into samadhi while you're driving your car. Please. You pay attention to what you're doing. That will be your samadhi. That will be your meditation. When the time is appropriate, you choose the technique which is appropriate for that time, place, and circumstance. And that will be the technique that you employ. But look at the tools, the variety of techniques that you have in your arsenal. You know, when I first came to America and I had my first toolbox, I had a hammer, and somebody said, please fix my computer. And I said, okay. I wasn't very efficient. but I showed that computer a thing or two. But as I grew in sophistication, I got more and more tools in my toolbox. And now I have that sharper image toolbox, and it's got more than a hammer. It's got all kinds of little goodies that I can fix many, many things with. And even I fixed somebody's shower the other day. Look at all the tools you're gaining just by taking the inspiration and cultivating the knowledge and putting it into practice, and taking that practice and refining it until you become good at it so that it becomes yours. This is the path of behavior of spiritual seekers. Pratamang Sedaputri cha dvitiyam brahmacharini tritiyam chandagante tikushmandeti chaturthakam. Remember, first came the goddess of inspiration, and then the sacred study, and then practicing and refining the practice. And that's what we're doing again and again in various ways. We're increasing the set of tools that we carry in our toolbox. So at any time you can select the right tool for the right job, the right meditation for the right circumstance. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just recently, today is the first day we have our chat is enabled on the website. Is it on the website? It's on the YouTube website. So if you go click on the video in our website, and it'll take you to YouTube. And if you go to YouTube, there will be a chat there. If you have any questions, please, somebody is standing by to read them for me. You have some already?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that was fast. Thank you.
We have a question from Shivani.
Namaste, where?
I don't know where she is.
Ask her. Where are you, Shivani? Are you in Vermont or Massachusetts or Colorado? Because you're certainly not in California. Okay, go ahead, ask her a question.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Is Shabda Brahman equivalent to the causal body of existence?
Yes, that's very good. Let's say it's beyond that. Let's say it's Turiya. It'll be beyond the causal body. What's beyond the causal body? Well, Turiya. We'll say the gross, the subtle, the causal, and beyond. Shabda Brahman is beyond. But it's the highest place, the highest aspect of the causal body.
She's in Vermont, by the way.
She's in Vermont. Thank you.
She has a couple more questions.
Okay.
Is seva considered part of arpana?
Yes, it is. It's an offering, and there's every time you offer, you're offering. It's an arpan. The difference between seva and work is work you do in exchange for something, but seva you do as a privilege just because you want to demonstrate your love. I mean, your heart is so full and it's just bursting at the seams. You want to say, I love you, I love you, I love you. So you do something that demonstrates the sincerity of your love, and that's seva. And that's both are arpan, both are an offering. They are. You can do offering at a job. I'm offering you my work, and you're offering me my pay. It's a pretty good deal. A lot of us have to do that from time to time. I think it's called employment. I would ask Srinath, but I don't think he knows what the meaning of the term is. But some of us have jobs, and we have to do something in exchange, and that's an arpanam. But it's an arpanam, it's not seva. Now, if you're in the ashram and you say, you do the dishes and you sweep the floor, and I'll clean the dish, I'll clean the altars, that's not quite seva. That's an exchange. We've agreed, in exchange for you doing your part and you're doing your part, I'll do my part. There's a contract there. But seva is just a privilege to be in love. You're a lover, And you can't hold your love in anymore, so you want to say I love you by doing something that you weren't asked to do, or you weren't told to do. You just want to do it, to say I love you. That's the difference, but they're both arpana.
We have one more question from Shivani.
Sure.
How does performing sadhana affect the gross, subtle, and causal bodies?
Well, sadhana comes from shat, and it's a purification. You're establishing yourself in truth. It's almost like you're becoming a spiritual discipline in order to promote purity and clarity and truth. And that's your sadhana. Whatever you do with a sankalpa, you have a definition of your vow that I want to demonstrate my love in this way. And I'm going to do it with regularity, and I'm going to do it with clarity. I'm doing it with purity and with pure intention and pure motivation for the purpose of purifying myself. All I want to do is express my love. I am not doing this as a job. And I'm not doing this as a livelihood. I'm not doing this in exchange for some contractual agreement. I'm just doing it to become a little bit better. That's how sadhana improves us and changes us. Now, it's going to have effect in your gross body because you learn to make your body sit still. You make your breath in harmony. Each breath is in accordance with the rhythm, the chanda of the mantra. So the mantras are written in chanda. You're inhaling a certain amount of syllables, so it's working on your gross body. It's working on your annamaya kosha, on your pranamaya kosha, in your manamaya kosha. Are you thinking about what you're doing? Why you're doing it? What it means? So now I'm not just thinking about poor little old me, the star of my drama. I'm thinking about the greater we. I'm thinking about me and God and how we're relating to each other and how I'm doing this discipline to come a little closer to you, to show you the sincerity of my love. So it's affecting my gross body, it's affecting my subtle body, and of course, as I merge into the causal body, I get the effects there too. Because I get this intuitive capacity is enhanced. I have more of an understanding that's beyond the intellect. I perceive through the eye of truth. I perceive the bhavana, the feeling, the attitude. See, Vani, this is the effects of sadhana.
We have a question from Rekha in Sacramento.
Namaste, Rekha Ma.
Namaste, Swamiji. Is it necessary to use the breathing patterns to get the benefits from chanting scriptures or mantras?
Rekha, we get benefits just by holding a book in our hand, just by keeping it on a shelf in our house. But you get more benefit if you read it. You get more benefit still if you breathe it. You get more benefit still if you understand it. You get more benefit still if you live it. The ideal is to pronounce it, understand it, and demonstrate it in your behavior. That's why we're doing it. So yes, if you breathe it, you get more benefit, but if you hold it, you get benefit. Just by having the book in your house, but every time you read it, no matter how you read it. In Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahatmya, the Gita Mahatmya, it says if you read one word, one syllable, one pod, one shlok, you get benefit. Certainly you get benefit. Yes, please.
Thank you, Swami. It's true. I know the definition of retiring better than you explained. One question I have is, when thinking about how to live the prayer that we make in the 13th chapter, where we're praying for all hostility to cease, and a lot of what I've had to learn in my life is how to control my emotions and to look at how the mind creates the emotions. And I'm a little confused on where the emotional body lies within this framework that you're talking about. And I'm also curious if you could speak about how in your life as a sadhu, have you needed to do a weaving of practices beyond just what we're finding in these 7 practices that you mentioned, integrating emotional transformation or emotional purification so that we can be centered, because I want to control my emotions so I don't react and have to go back and clean up mistakes that I make on the path.
Sure. And most of us do. All the emotion is a reflection of our attachment. So it's all coming from an ego position. And what we're doing in all of our sadhana is trying to step by step inspire the ego. He got inspired. There he goes. We're going to inspire the ego into surrender. Now, the English term surrender is very different from the Sanskrit term surrender. Egos, in English, surrender means I've got a gun to my head, I've got my back against the wall, I've got no alternative, and I throw myself on the mercy and I surrender. It's the last thing you do. In Sanskrit, the term surrender is called samarpana. Shama arpana. We offer ourselves in equilibrium. Shama means perfect equilibrium, perfect balance. Now, it's the goal of our sadhana, is to come to that position of samarpana. So it's the first thing that we're trying to do as sadhus, is to surrender. Where in English, it's the last thing we're trying to do. So here we have a little bit of difficulty reconciling the two concepts of the same term. Because for us, all this emotion that comes from my attachment is merely chatter of the ego. And I don't want it. I don't need it. It's not going to get me where I want to go. So I want to think more about thee instead about me. I don't want to think about my emotions and how I feel about it, and it's good from my point of view, and it's good, and it's bad according to my opinion. I want to take that subjective mind and surrender it in equilibrium. So I'm using my mantras. All these mantras, mantrayate iti mantra, they're taking away my mind. They're taking away the subjectivity from the mind and make me pure, objective consciousness. That's our goal, and that's our process. So every time you find yourself analyzing and thinking in terms of this is good, and I like that, and I don't like that, and I don't want to do, stop. That's not where we're trying to go. We're not trying to judge. We're trying to see as it is, and how can I use this circumstance to put myself into a greater harmony and greater balance, and how can I become a tool in the hands of God? So that's our objective. And remember your intention. Remember why you're doing this. Why did you come here? You obviously, you're searching for something that changes your life. You didn't come here to get rich and famous. I mean, obviously we're not going to get rich and famous in a warehouse in Yuba City. This isn't what we came here for. We came here to learn one letter of one principle, any little slightest principle that could inspire me to make a change in my life so that I become a little bit better. In fact, one day I'll become the person I like. I'll become my best friend. I could even become the person I most highly respect. If I get rid of all the chatter that's going on. Talking about my emotions and how I feel about this and how I feel about, who cares?
No, and has to go inside the brain and
Is that how it happens?
I think I should some ant to see the brain.
Well, you can start here. I've been here for 40 years. I've been waiting. You're still not my aunt. You're still not my I'd love to have a Chatima. Yeah. Dugo. Yes, please.
We talked about the different meters of Sanskrit.
Yes.
Do we change the amount of syllables on the inhalation based on the exhalation syllables?
Yeah, we do, yes. Yeah. We may not change the number of syllables, well, we may change the duration. So I may say, and then recite a mantra. Or I may say,
But always once.
well, I'm using my mantra, her mantra. I'm using my Diksha mantra. I use the only mantra I really understand. So I have a mantra, and I inhale that mantra no matter what text I'm reciting.
But you only inhale it once.
Sometimes I do it twice.
Twice.
Sometimes I do it 3 or 4 times. It depends on what text I'm reciting and how I'm reciting it and why I'm reciting it and in what circumstance I'm reciting it. You'll have to excuse me, I'm a professional reciter. I mean, that's what I live to do.
I've heard you say that it's mathematical. How do we determine the speed in which we inhale?
You'll understand it. You're inhaling 9 syllables. And you're expressing 32 or 64, or if some multiple. You'll understand how much air do you need in order to maintain consistency, so that you're the same with every recitation, with every breath. Okay, so that's the whole goal of pranayam. Pranayam. Yam means to control. I'm controlling the prana. And prana doesn't mean only breath, it means the life force. So I'm controlling the life force by taking control of my breath. And inhaling according to a fixed number of syllables makes every inhalation the same. Well, if every inhalation is the same, every exhalation will be the same, so I can recite the same number of syllables each time I exhale. And there's the pranayama. Do you have any other questions outside?
We have another question from Shivani.
Yes, Shivani, Mama.
Still in Vermont.
Still in Vermont? Get on a plane, will you?
Can Mahishasura or Mardini only cut off our head if we offer it?
Generally speaking, you want to offer your head before she cuts it off. There are certain situations where she cuts it first, and then you say, oh yeah, I was supposed to offer it then. But mostly, our goal as sadhus is to ask her to, here, please, you cut here. And take it and put it in Kali's hand, and don't let her let it go. Just let her keep it there. Because sometimes she cuts it and we weren't ready to give it up, and we take it back and say, I'm not giving it to you. And we come back into a body very quickly. Om San Saraswati Namaha. If you have no more questions tonight, we'll continue this tomorrow night. We'll start studying philosophy. Great?
Thank you, Yami.
Namaste, everybody. Thank you all over the world, whoever's watching. And thank you, Shivani and Rekama. Namaste.